Hey, what's happening, everybody? It is Robert Phoenix, and a little bit late tonight. Trying to endeavor to get to 7:30, 7:45, but I'm here, and so are you. Tonight, I'm actually wearing my anti-coronavirus outfit. I hope you enjoy it. This is more of a statement of personal liberation than anything else, and of course. Tonight's show won't be complete or replete without the man coming in. Here he is. Come on, Astro Cat. Let's go. Here he is. Jasper, the Astrological cat. Yeah. So I decided to take a portion of my clothes off tonight because we're living in a time where obviously not only are we supposed to be wearing clothes, but we're not supposed to touch each other. We're not supposed to go outside in groups of more than 3 or 6. And if you're one of the lucky ones in California, well, you're not supposed to be able to go outside at all. So I decided to kind of go in a different direction tonight and at least talk about sort of the alternatives to the current state of, how shall we say, Victorian affairs. So let me check in with you guys in the chat room. Let's see who's in the chat. Let's see. We got Rob. What's going on, Rob? And Isla. And then there's CG. Hey, CG. Christine. Ani. Hey, Ani. There's Joan. Hi, Joan. And Anna. And let's see. Anna and Ani. Back to back. There we go. And Sigurd. And Judy. Hi, Judy. Charles. You're a Starnick. Yeah, man. Let's see. We got Mary. Hi, Mary. And Joe. What's going on, Joe? Uncle Glenn. I'm wearing my magic hat tonight, too, by the way. Does that look a little magical? I tried to bring a little magic into tonight's show because I want to talk a little bit about magic. And I want to talk about, we're going to talk about a lot tonight. I got a lot planned. I've got, let's see, I got the chart of the moment, which is, of course, very interesting. Somebody wanted me to do Italy's chart. So I have Italy's chart. We're going to throw Italy's chart up there tonight. We're going to look at Italy's chart and let's see what else we have. Oh, I decided to take a crack at Dr. Anthony Fauci's chart. That should be fun. And then my new favorite person is the machine gun eye blinker. The Gatling gun of blinking eyes, also known as Deborah Birx, who has become the school marm of the president's task force to attack the coronavirus. So we're gonna look at all 4 of those charts. And I'm gonna look at a chart of a dear friend who just passed away today at 11 a.m. And his name is Phil Fisher. And I'm gonna get into Phil's chart and I'm gonna tell you why I'm getting into it and why he's so special to a lot of people and to me in my life. I'm about to really kind of lose it when I think about Phil. So I'm gonna get into his chart and a little bit about Phil's life and why I think he was such an amazing person, one of the truly great unknown minds of the 20th century. But before I go off into the maudlin land of remembering our dear old friend Phil, it really occurred to me that since I was kind of born a contrarian, that these are really, in a lot of ways, very contrarian times. Absolutely contrarian times. So we're being told to go inside, stay inside, don't go out to the restaurants, don't go out to the bars, do not commiserate. Oh no, there's no commiseration that's being allowed to take place. You can't go to the gym, which means you can't work out, you can't stay strong unless you have a home gym, in which case you can kind of do some of that. We're being told a lot of things, about this coronavirus. But really what it's boiled down to is an increased sense of isolationism. And we're about to go into one of the most wonderful and powerful times of the year. This is the Spring Equinox. And this is the season of renewal, the season of Aries. And our good friend Phil, or my good friend Phil, my good friend Phil was in Aries. I guess he's still in Aries somewhere. In our memories, he's in Aries. So one of the things I've been thinking about, really thinking about, is what can we do to have our humanity intact, right? And the real spirit of Aries. And the real spirit of Aries. What can we do? Well, one of the things we can do is we can access nature. We can access nature. You know, there's nothing saying, unless of course you're in California or New York or I don't know, Ohio or Washington, but there's nothing that says that we can't access nature right now. You just can't access nature in a group of what, 100 people, but you can still access nature. Absolutely. So I would say that until they say that you can't access nature, to get your ass out there and start accessing nature. Spend time outside. And I know the weather's been shitty in many parts of the country, and particularly here in Texas. But I think it's a call, you know, and you could go with maybe 2 or 3 people. There's nothing saying you can't do that. You know, I saw John Garamendi yesterday. He's a congressman from California, talking about how he went for a walk to exercise. He went for a walk. Isn't that wonderful? That's so wonderful that he's providing an example for us to be able to go out and walk and exercise. So as we head into the spring equinox, as we say goodbye to the wet and dreary season of Pisces, please, Pisces. I know there are a lot of Pisces out there, and no harm, no foul. You're all wonderful, wonderful people, but it's really the time of year where it's astrological kryptonite for me. So I'm more than happy to see that the calendar is going to turn, and soon we'll be dancing with the horns of the ram, or Aries. So I am sharing with you in the spirit of being a good American, an American that really takes this country right into your heart, right into your heart. One of the best things that you can do as an American is go out in nature, right? This land is your land. This land is my land. And you know, if you have to go out with 1 or 2 or 3 people, so be it. Go out and hang out in nature. It's part of who we are, and we need to bring that back into our lives. And the other thing I think that people should really be thinking about doing is I really think that people should be having sex right now. And I'm not saying indiscriminate sex, by the way. I'm talking about if you have a partner in your life, you guys should be like doing it, right? Because again, this is contrary to kind of where we're at. You know, it's all about social distancing and not getting together in public, right? It is, in a lot of ways, it's really Victorian. It's uber Victorian. And what did the Victorians do behind closed doors? Well, the Victorians behind closed doors were a little racy, right? They took those corsets off, and you know, there was a lot of play heat in the Victorian era, shall we say? So I'm exhorting. I'm saying to you that we have all this downtime now, right? We have all the downtime now. Let's see, I've got my hand here. We have all this downtime now. Why not take advantage of it? Why not take advantage of it? You know, what the world needs now really is more sex. That's what I think. More sex, more eroticism, more Aries energy. That's what the world needs now. I mean, for crying out loud, I mean, we're basically being stuck in these, you know, mausoleums, these mausoleums of behavior modification and control. Now, I'm not asking you or telling you to go out and do anything that our wonderful government and all of our wonderful leaders who have your best interest at heart. You know, I'm not telling you to do anything contrary to what their guidance and their direction has for you, because we know they're the experts, and we know that they have just years and years and years and years of mastery and knowledge and experience far beyond what any of us could ever hope to grasp in our lifetime. So I'm not asking you to do anything that they're not telling you to do, but within the parameters of what they shared with you and what they've shared with us, you still have options. And of course, we all need exercise. And of course, there is a world out there where they have vitamin D and it's on tap through the sun. Natural vitamin D. You don't have to go to CVS and wait in line for curbside pickup to get your vitamin D. So I would say to you, go out, proliferate in groups of 1 or 2 or maybe 3 in the states that it's still allowable in. And maybe while you're out there, if you're out there in a group of 2, you can take my first suggestion, which is to go out in nature, and then take my second suggestion, which is to have more sex. And then you could have sex in nature. Oh my God, what a concept. What a concept. So that's really, kind of my opening message for most of you tonight as we get ready to head into the Aries new moon. It's the balsamic moon. It's a Piscean balsamic moon. Is there any more of a fermented moon than the Piscean balsamic moon? I don't think so. It's about as fermented as it gets. That's what I think. So tomorrow, the moon in Aries. Do something. Find your inner fire. Find your creativity. Find your prana, right? And if you don't have somebody that you're quote unquote intimate with, well, I don't know. Maybe there's a friend with a benefit out there that you'd like to, take a walk on. Or maybe there's like a coronavirus dating service that you can check into. And of course, your partners would be pre-screened because they've taken the test and you know that they're not going to be contagious. So maybe you could pop into the coronavirus dating service, Corona Date or something like that. And then schedule your walk in time in nature, because why not? This is a wonderful time of year. And again, I'm not asking you or telling you to do anything that our wonderful leaders and the most informed people on the planet have for you. But I am sharing with you some alternatives that might just make your springtime experience a little more, how shall we say, lively. And as we have a little more lively energy in our lives, well, guess what? We can celebrate. We can celebrate and we can be joyous and we can be happy. We don't have to be dour. We don't have to walk around looking at each other from 6 feet apart with, practicing the social distancing. This is a big fucking mind control program if you haven't figured it out. And of course, I'm being a little bit playful here, but part of me is also quite serious in a lot of ways. And again, I'm not telling you or asking you to do anything that's not going to be in the public's best interest, but within the parameters of that, there's some latitude. And I how do I say this? I exhort that you take advantage of the latitude. Take advantage of the latitude. Take advantage of latitude while you can. Because we need energy to change the situations in our lives. Are we going to conform to a narrative from a dominant paradigm that in many ways is treating us like children? They're treating us like children. I'm going to talk about Deborah Birx. I'm going to get into her chart, and she's incredibly patronizing in her own officious kind of way. So we'll look at her chart a lot. Well, not a lot, but enough. You guys get where I'm coming from, right? You get where I'm coming from. Because we need to counterbalance this energy. We need to bring something new in, right? Because what are the options? The options are, well, you've got your preps, and hopefully you've got your preps, and you're here in Texas. I can tell you right now, there's been a massive run on guns and ammo. Like, people are armed to the fucking teeth, okay? They are, because number one, they're either going to want to ward off any kind of zombie apocalypse home raiders, right? Or they're going to want to ward off the prisoners that have been let out of their prisons. They're going to want to ward off the theoretical people that are here to protect us on some level. These are all thoughts that are going through their head. They want to protect themselves, or they're hunkered down in their first chakra. I say let's take it up one more chakra. That's what I think we should do. Take it up one more chakra. Get into your second chakra. You know, find the fire in your belly, or just below your belly for that matter. Because we have to bring some different energy to this experience. We have to. If we don't bring the different energy to the experience, then, you know, then we get everything we deserve in a lot of ways. And I'm going to get into where I think this is going. And I have some very kind of shocking news to share with you, although some of you may not be that shocked. And it has to do with Uranus and Taurus. So we'll get into that. Get into a lot of stuff tonight. Tonight's going to be a really good show. Maybe it already is. Who knows? All right, let's. Oh, by the way, I'm wearing my my Masaki tools right there. This helps me deal with 5G. All right, let's see what we've got here. We've got a cheeky one in Rob. I've got my arsenal. The gun ranges have been packed in Texas. That's right. Let's see. What else do we have here? How about boots, Uncle Glenn? What else we have? Stephen, you can join in. Send me a picture. What else we have? Hi, Robert and everybody. Hi, Mary. Here's Ian. Hi, Ian. What's going on, Ian? Oh, let's see. Everyone we see out walking, make sure to keep their distance. It's so awkward. People literally go to the other side of the street. I know, right? It's so weird. The whole thing is so weird. Corona date, man. Corona date. If you're a web developer and you're not developing Corona date right now, you are missing out. You are totally missing out. This could be a really good opportunity for you. Maybe it's somewhere in that $7.5 trillion relief package, the litmus package. I'm going to talk about that. It's pretty significant, and it's going to shape our world for weeks, months, days, years to come. Years to come. All right, why don't we get into the chart of the moment? Let's just jump right in, shall we? Let's do that. I was listening to Lee Michaels before I got on the show. You know what I mean. Okay. All righty. All righty. Look at that. Oh, no. Here we go. Make love, not war. The credo for our time. Lean into the other direction. Lean into the other direction. Of course, lean into it legally. Right? I'm not advocating anything illegal. No, not me. Not me. Not your guy. But within the parameters of what is legal, I say you swing for the fences. That's what I say. Give me 1 second here. Almost there. All right. Let's get into the chart of the moment. Jasper, sitting right next to me. He was laying down all day. I swear to God. As soon as I fired the computer up, here he is. All right. Let's see what we got. Bada boom. Oh, this is one for Scottsdale. That's all right. It's actually, hold on. This should have been changed. Give me a second. It should have been changed. I'm gonna have to switch charts. Okay, I'm gonna be on the air tomorrow. I'm gonna do 15 minutes of flame tomorrow. I got some stuff to show you guys. Here we go. Let me do this one. It is more astrologically correct. Astrologically correct. Here we go. Okay, got that. Get rid of that. See your wrong chart. Okay, here we go. All right, chart of the moments. We got 8 Libra on the ascendant. And we have our, well, it's really kind of bordering on a bundle chart, isn't it? You guys, you know, the 7 Jones types charts. Let's just go over them again. We have the splash chart, which is planets all over the place, right? It's like a Pollock painting. With the splash chart, you almost always get the Grand Cross, and the Grand Cross being the kind of the symbol of some kind of mastery, right, in this lifetime. Splash chart people are jacks of all trades. They're Renaissance people, lots of different interests, lots of different skills. Hard to bring it all together. It's a lifetime achievement. Let's see what else we have. We have the seesaw chart, right? The chart split in half, basically, and people try to juggle and balance the 2 hemispheres of their chart. And you go back and forth and back and forth, and it's kind of a difficult chart in some ways. You know, it's really it's not easy, especially when there are heavy transits on one side of the chart. Most famous seesaw chart I know was Whitney Houston's. You can see she was definitely split. Then we have what's known as the splay chart. And the splay chart usually almost looks like a triangle with the planets here, here, here. And one of the things you almost always see in the splay chart is a grand trine. And there's a few other things, you know, what you don't find in a lot of splay charts, you don't find a lot of squares. And you may get an opposition or two, but it's one of those charts where it feels like people have done a lot of work in a previous lifetime, and they've been able to kind of, you know, experience the fruits of other incarnations in a lot of ways. But I've also seen splay chart people have things very easy and not always get things done in some ways, but they do just fine. So the splay chart is usually indicative of a grand trine. Then we have the funnel chart, and the funnel chart is when you have essentially a group of planets. Like this would be a funnel chart if there was a planet over here. And then that would be a key planet because it stands out from the rest of the chart, right? And theoretically, everything would theoretically flow into the funnel chart. It's also let's see, it's also known as a bucket chart, okay? A bucket. Then there is the basket, and the basket's a pretty rare chart, and that's when all the planets are on one side. Like this is like if there was another planet up here, we'd have a clear basket chart. And the challenge with the basket charts are the houses that are unoccupied. Like that's where the work is really supposed to take place with a lot of basket chart people. And then let's see what else. Oh, and then we have the locomotive. And the locomotive is generally where, let's say Saturn was here and all these other planets would be around here, and it would like end like, I don't know, right about there. 9, 10 houses, maybe 9 houses. So you'd look at what the head planet is and what the back planet is, and the head planet would be sort of the engine, and then the back planet would be the caboose. And there would be a whole sequence of energy and connection between one planet and all the other planets. And the thing that would be really important for somebody with a locomotive chart would be to get momentum in their lives, right? Momentum. Now, the bundle chart and I would say that this would be kind of a wide bundle, but the bundle chart in an astrological chart usually indicates almost a savant-like kind of quality that a person has, and they're focusing on just 2 or 3 areas in their chart, or maybe 4 at the most. The one bundle chart that I think is probably most indicative of a bundle chart that I've seen is Katy Perry. And she's only got planets between her 12th house, 1st house, and I think 2nd house. That's it. She's working on what's behind the scenes. She's got Pluto in the 12th, her persona, and singing. She might have one planet in the third if she's lucky, or maybe it's ingressing into the third. So what we're dealing with here is a bundle chart. It's a wide bundle. So there's a concentration of energy. And tonight, the concentration of energy is the 8th house with Venus there. And we have Uranus at 4 Taurus. So Venus is really starting to separate now from Uranus. I think it went conjunct with Uranus, on the, I think the 5th or the 6th. So by the way, congratulate CG in the chat room. She's a grandmother. The first grandkid just popped into her life. So congratulations, Carol. I did a reading for CG and her daughter and her wonderful son-in-law now, and their new baby, their brand new baby, Theo. So I did a reading for them on Friday night, and it was wonderful. You know what's really been interesting this week? I got to tell you, I've had 3 separate readings this week where kids were present. It was so cool, really, really cool. So I had one reading early. It was actually last, I think Thursday. It was last Thursday. Oh, week to week, right? Last Thursday, it was a gal in really nice, really, really nice young woman, great young woman. And she lives in California. And she had a 4.5-year-old daughter and some older ones as well. And that 4.5-year-old spent probably about 25 minutes on her lap. Of course, she wasn't listening to the reading. She was basically being a little monkey, but it was great, right? Because people are home now. And then I did another reading later this week, actually earlier this week, but later after the Thursday reading. And another really wonderful person, and she had her son on her lap, and he's a big Jasper fan, this boy. So he was on her lap for a while, and then on Friday, it was Friday night. It was CG and her daughter Allie and her son-in-law and Theo, and Theo was there. I mean, he was born on the 6th of March. I mean, what an interesting baby, what an interesting chart and person he's going to be. So it was great. You know, a lot of Cancerian energy. People at home, kids in the room, loved it. Absolutely loved it. Well, somebody's trying to hold me. No, that's my lawyer, who I just fired. What a buzzkill that is, I have to say. Total buzzkill. Anyway, emancipated that guy. So the Cancerian energy is really happening. Let me talk a little bit about the Cancerian energy, because the powers that be, they are practicing some astrological magic, some real astrological magic. Man, I have never seen such energy devoted to bringing the people together. You know, I talked about this before. Like, how do you bring disparate people? How do you bring it all together? How do you bring a nation who's fractured and divided together? Well, you have triangulation. You have this kind of third-party conflict. You have this third-party issue or action. So, for instance, you know, we had World War II. Now, we weren't a fractured nation going into World War II. That was headed after World War II. But that's how you bring people together, right? There's a crisis. Everybody pulls together, right? Let's pull together. So where are we now? We're very much in this pull together. Like, they're talking about this as a war. This is a war. Trump has become a wartime president. And the war is the coronavirus. It is the virus. It is the threat that cannot be detected only on the front lines of our medical staff and medical workers, who are the new heroes, right? They're the new heroes. So if you're a medical person out there, well, Tip of the hat to you. I hope you are staying healthy with your job of testing Americans for the coronavirus. But they are the new heroes, right? This is what's happening now. And this is the new war effort. And we all have to pull together. We all have to do our part. And our part is to be able to stay home and order pizza and order liquor or booze or alcohol that can be just driven right to your house, and stay glued to your TV and watch coronavirus coverage 24/7. So hour after hour after hour, you'll remember that you should be washing your hands and staying 6 feet away from other people, perhaps 10 feet away. That might be even better. That's your duty as an American right now. Just stay the fuck home and eat pizza and stay away from people. Do your part. Gain a bunch of weight, eat a bunch of doughy products, watch a bunch of shitty TV, and then, of course, stay tuned for whatever coronavirus information can come your way. Isn't that right? That's doing your part. You do your part, you'll be a good American, and you'll be able to conquer this new threat, which is overrunning our country. Now, I know in many states, and including this one, the National Guard will be deployed. Well, guess what? Coronavirus has some real tough guys. Some real tough guys now are coming out to take care of that coronavirus. They ain't seen nothing yet. America's best is about to hit the streets. So whether you're in Texas and the National Guard will be deployed, or New York, perhaps California or Washington, wherever liberties and freedoms are threatened by something we can't even see, know that your best and brightest, the fighting men and women of America, are taking to the streets to take on that coronavirus. So what could you do? Nothing. Don't do anything. Just stay home. It is the best thing that you can do. It's your patriotic duty to stay home, and make sure that you listen to the people that know exactly what's best for you. And if you do that, you'll be just fine. You'll be right as rain, and you'll feel a whole lot better about America and being an American. Isn't that right? See, this is the Cancerian programming that we're getting right now. We've got the Capricorn Brigade. Oh, look at that. We got the Mars-Pluto conjunction. It is on, and will be tomorrow. It is on like Donkey Kong. Well, hey, here in Texas, Greg Abbott, also known as Dr. X, right? Dr. Xavier. Greg Abbott should shave his head. He should shave his head because he's in a wheelchair. He should shave his head and go for a Picard effect. Or, Jean-Luc Picard played Dr. Xavier of the X-Men, right? That was his role, Greg Abbott's just a really good haircut away from that. You got to think about that. Anyway, he gave a press conference today, and the National Guard are going to come out and they're going to help set up coronavirus stations. They're going to build open air tent cities, I think, for all the millions of people in Texas that are going to come down with coronavirus. So, boots on the ground. There's a war going on. There is a war going on. And you just have to do your part. You just do your part. Stay home. That's all you got to do. But have you guys not felt that? Have you not felt this kind of fervent spirit of having to make the sacrifice? So we're all going to get through this together. Together. That's the big theme here. Well, I'm going to show you where the together is going to take you. Not quite yet. We're going to have this true node going into Cancer at 1 and then 0 degrees. And I talked about that on Friday's show. I believe now it was on Thursday's show. And that the Sabian symbol for that is a sailor on a ship at sea lowers one flag and raises another. That's coming. That is coming. There is a new alliance and a new allegiance that's coming. And you can kind of see that, right? You're seeing sort of the lefties now, like Gavin Newsom and AOC, they're starting to fall behind, get behind Trump. Isn't this interesting? You know, what's happening now is this dialectic, this duality that's been taking place. It has split the country in two. Well, guess what? Now we're all one. We're all just one family. We're all just one family with a terrible cough and a lot of sneezing and in search of a hotel with a ventilator. This is what's bringing us together. It's totally bringing us together. Don't you feel emboldened and empowered by this effort, this wonderful effort that we're all taking part in? That's the true node in Cancer, boys and girls. They're taking this thing, they're hijacking it, and they are running with it. I don't mind. I got to do 3 readings this last week with kids on their mom's laps. One, again, was CG. It was in a bed. They were all in a bed. Grandma, son, daughter, grandson, right? Hold on. People are sending me images here. Yeah. That's what they're doing, right? That's what they're doing. By the way, unless it's really urgent, like unless the sound fucks up, you know, or something like that, please try to. I don't want to be a jerk, but try to refrain from texting me, because you know, I get on a bit of a roll every now and then. At least I try to. Now I have to go reload everything. Anyway, let's get into this. What do we have? We got a serious lack of air, except for Saturn. No. Just let me do this. Hold on. Somebody doesn't know. Here we go. Done. You'll hear one more thing, probably. It's okay. Saturn's in Aquarius. Yeah. How's that working out so far? How are those large groups going with Saturn in Aquarius? Like none at all, right? None at all. There are none. We don't have the NBA, no NHL. Guarantee you there won't be any Olympics. That's not happening. And quite frankly, I could see that there will be issues with the old internet with Saturn in Aquarius. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that's coming. You know that's coming. They're already signaling that. Like, it's okay for now. You can work at home from now. You can be able to go to school at home for now. But guess what's going to happen? At some point, there's going to be an overload on the system. There's going to be an overload. So what's going to happen to the system at that point? Well, they just may shut that old system down because they got a new system that I'm sure they've already worked on and ready to go, which will be a state-sponsored internet, like a public utility. And guess what? You probably won't even have to pay for it. It's probably built into their new little stimulus package. Isn't that cool? You won't even have to pay for it. Well, all you have to do is stare at that little camera. Let that little camera take a picture of your old retina there. And then you're on. You're on the internet superhighway, theoretically. And whatever is left of your so-called anonymity, well, it's a minor inconvenience. That'll be gone. I mean, guess what? You get to have a free internet. Isn't that cool? All right, so they're already talking about it. I've been hearing rumblings. Some guy in England was talking about it. Now, of course, when they get 5G everywhere, I'm sure that'll solve a lot of their problems with the internet as well. It'll be free and open, and it won't be free. It'll be fast. It'll be free, not so open. It'll be fast. They'll have an answer for that too. I think we're going to get more limitations with Saturn in Aquarius around things like media, multimedia, the internet, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Also, Saturn limits, right? In Aquarius is about groups and organizations, and it is the limiting of groups and organizations. Now, I've spoken at great length about the dark new age, the anti-new age, that is roughly a version of Techno-feudalism, where everybody's living in a green city, a wonderful Agenda 21 style penthouse that you don't own, and you might not even be able to occupy because somebody else might want to live there or share it with you. It's a whole other version of the economy and reality that we might be staring down, right? So there will be these things that may seem really cool on the surface, but they're cool with the cost and they're cool with the price. And that comes into Uranus in Taurus. And right now we have Jupiter and Mars in kind of a wide square with Uranus. Uranus in Taurus, let's face it, boys and girls, it's the end of cash money. You can kiss your cash goodbye. Kiss it goodbye. And there's going to be a new system that's coming into play. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And it's just right around the corner. They are just crashing this car like it's a crash test dummy vehicle. This is going straight into the ground. But don't worry. Don't worry. There's a $7.5 trillion stimulus package that is on the table right now. So what I want to do is I want to share with you something that's embedded in that stimulus package, which gives you an idea as to where the economy and where this nuisance called cash, where it's going. Okay, give me 1 second. There we go. Where are we? Yes. Come on now. Come on now. Here it is. Give me 1 second. Speaking of the internet, man, everybody's home now. It's slow. Oh, come on. Get back on here. You can do it. It's made a little switch. Come on. See the reality I'm creating now? I say the internet's going to be slow. And guess what? It is slow. It is definitely slow. I can't even get on and get this email. Let me try this again. Throttling the old internet. Sacre bleu. Here we go. All right. I want to thank Yana Stein, by the way, who sent this to me. Thank you, Yana, for bringing this to my attention. Let me show you what Uranus and Taurus is going to look like. This is the Automatic Boost to Communities Act, also known as APCA. And look who has written Automatic Boost. One, Rashida Tlaib from MI13. Summary: in response to the coronavirus crisis, the Automatic Boost to Communities Act would immediately provide a U.S. debit card preloaded with $2,000 to every person in America. Each card would be recharged with $1,000 monthly until 1 year after the coronavirus crisis. So what does that tell you? What does that tell you? It tells you that they're planning this thing to go on for at least a year. Let's look at the guaranteeing universality. Every person includes dependents. So a couple with 2 children would receive 4 times the $2,000, $8,000 in total. What if you got 5 children or 6 children or 8 children? I guess there's an $8,000 cap. Non-citizens, including undocumented people, permanent residents, and temporary visitors, whose stay exceeds 3 months. So if you're an undocumented person, you're part of the family. It's that spirit of the true note in Cancer. People living in unincorporated territories. What the hell is that? What's a territory? Isn't territory like a term that's used in battle, conflict, and war? Isn't a territory something to be seized? Isn't that an interesting term? Unincorporated territories or protectorates and Americans living abroad. So you don't even have to live in the United States. Bonnie Willow, pay attention to that. You're going to get $1,000 a month. To ensure that this program is as universal and comprehensive as possible, the U.S. Treasury will develop its list of individuals, eligible individuals, with the Internal Revenue Service and the Social Security Administration, the Federal Election Commission, and every other relevant federal, state, and local government agency, including state-level departments of motor vehicles. There's one agency in there that I may not really qualify for. We'll just leave it at that. Distributing the money. The prepaid cards would be distributed as U.S. debit cards and would be administered by the U.S. Treasury's Bureau of Fiscal Service. These prepaid digital cash cards could be used to withdraw physical currency at regular ATMs or FDIC-insured banks or credit unions, or make payments as point-of-sale terminals, as well as online. In addition, these cards can be topped up with additional funds as needed during and after the crisis. Ooh, how do you top them up? And how do you get those additional funds as needed? Who's gonna sign off on that one? The program would establish a common database of recipients identified by name and or, whatever that or is, where available, employer identification numbers. Identifying information would not be shared with any other federal, state, or local agency, or any, what is it? It's not complete there. Any individual who receives, activates, and uses more than the maximum number of cards for themselves and their dependents, either as a result of fraud or an administrative error, would have excess funds reclaimed in the future via appropriate mechanisms. Okay, this goes on and on and on. Okay, they'll be distributed by direct mail, in-person pickup, and then there's the risk outreach. A dedicated emergency responder corps will perform outreach to at-risk populations, including people who are elderly, homeless, physically disabled, or live in remote areas, to ensure they receive their U.S. debit card and to simultaneously perform a general wellness check in case they need additional targeted assistance, like additional targeted assistance in evacuating the premises, if you know what I mean. Funding the program, the Automatic Boost to Communities Act would be a money financed fiscal program for which no additional U.S. debt would be issued. Instead, the program would be funded directly from the Treasury using its legal authority to create money via coin seigniorage. How about that? Which is a statutory delegation of Congress' constitutional power of the purse. Check this out. This is where it gets really trippy. The mechanics of this funding approach would be as follows. The Treasury Secretary would direct the U.S. Mint to issue 2 1 trillion platinum coins under the legal authority of 31 USC 51120K. Now, what the hell does $2 trillion platinum coins look like? Have you seen the going rate of platinum these days? How big would $1 trillion platinum coin have to be? Like the size of Fredericksburg? Was that what they're going to do? I mean, what's platinum an ounce right now? What, about $1,400 an ounce? Something like that, right? So if you have a platinum, 1 ounce looks like a It looks like a silver dollar, right? It looks like a silver dollar. It's basically what an ounce is. $1,400 an ounce. So if they're supposed to create two coins, two $1 trillion platinum coins, how big is the fucking coin? Or is it very special platinum? Is it like platinum from, oh, I don't know, Krypton? Is that it? Is it platinum from the Anunnaki? Is it a special kind of platinum? Like, we're living in fucking sci-fi land now, okay? Like $2 trillion, two $1 trillion platinum coins, the magic coin of the realm. And it's those two $1 trillion coins that will power everything. Everything. You know, get it done. We're living in sci-fi land. Let's keep going. The Federal Reserve would complete the purchase by crediting U.S. Mint's account at the Fed with $2 trillion in reserves. It's a team effort. There's a war going on. We're all in it together. The Treasury Secretary would sweep the newly created reserve funds from the Mint's account. Sweep. Let's go in there and sweep. Sweep it up. The newly created reserve funds from the Mint's account into, okay, here we go, Mint, into the Treasury General account, right there. The Treasury would make the funds available to the Bureau of Fiscal Service to disperse to every person in America in the form of a prepaid U.S. debit card with Donald Trump's picture on it, by the way. No doubt, right? This approach would preserve the historical separation between fiscal and monetary policy and avoid financial entanglement between the Treasury and the Federal Reserve. Oh, yeah. Which would eventually undermine the independence of the Fed. We don't want to undermine the independence of the Fed now, do we? Because they've been so nice to us, so good to us, just printing that money and then selling it to us at interest. No, they need their independence. In the long term, the card infrastructure, and this is the big part right here. Pay attention, boys and girls. This is where Uranus and Taurus really kicks in. In the long term, the card infrastructure should be converted into a permanent, Treasury administered digital public currency wallet system to serve as a privacy respected, oh, there's always that word, we're gonna respect your privacy. Don't you worry. Oh, you just spend it on whatever you want. I'll respect your privacy. Famous last fucking words. E-cash. E-cash. Okay. Complement to universal Fed accounts and or postal bank accounts for all. Goodbye, banks. This proposal should be accompanied by progressive tax reform to ensure that emergency relief provisioning does not exacerbate income or wealth inequality in the long term. So basically they're saying, hey, look, once we get this thing rolling, okay, don't worry about it. We're just going to convert everything. We're going to get people up and running. They're going to get their cards. You're going to use their cards. And then see you later. See you later, dollar. Bye-bye. This is Uranus and Taurus, okay? This is where it's going. This is what's happening. So my question to you, is this something that you would be interested in? Would you be interested in getting $1,000 from the government every month during this crisis? Because let's face it, you're not going to get any money anywhere else, right? Unless you're part of some underground economy. It ain't happening anywhere else. Or, you know, there's other ways to do it, right? There are people that will get through this time. If you're a delivery driver, it's your lucky fucking day. It's your lucky day. You're busy. You can deliver food now from more, you know, from sun up to sundown and beyond. If you're a delivery driver, I suggest you bank your cash. Keep your cash. This is where it's headed. Now, I'm sure that there are people out there, like, say, Christians, who would recognize this as being perhaps the entree to the mark of the beast. And that they would be able to talk about this in church on Sundays, right? Oh, I forgot. They don't go to church. They can't go to church because they're not allowed to assemble with more than 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 people at the most. So they can't have a discussion about whether or not they'd be willing to accept this. And even if they did, I'm sure that there are plenty of pastors out there who would be more than happy to promote this wonderful, wonderful new way of changing money. It's really going to be like, I don't know, a gift of the Creator in a time of fallow production where people are not working and not doing God work. The Creator himself steps in and is the substitute for their hard-earned money through labor. I'm sure there would be some of them who would say that, really. But guess what? They can't, because they don't have a place to go. So what's going to happen to the churches? Oh, by the way, could you imagine now when this thing is all done and they go to church, you know, it's going to have to happen then, no money. You're going to have to run around with a card reader when it comes to, you know, donations, tithing to the church, right? They'll have to have a card reader. People can get out their card. And it's like, oh God, I don't want them to know that I'm only giving $5. Because before, you know, just there's the bowl or whatever. I don't go to church, so I don't really know what they pass, bowl, bucket. I don't know what it is. I think it's a bowl maybe. And you put something in there, maybe you have an envelope. Some people have envelopes, right? Very private thing. You know, if you really want to give a lot of money, you don't want to appear to be ostentatious, performing simony, right? Then you just put it in the envelope. Or if you were very humble and you had a few dollars, you don't want people to know that this is all you can afford, right? Oh, not anymore. Not anymore. That old donation is going to show up somewhere, if indeed the churches actually last. Because now that people can't go to church, how are they going to tithe? How are they going to donate? How are they going to keep the doors open, the heat on? It's a very challenging time for churches. And Christianity in general. They've canceled Easter. You can't go to church, right? I think there's a new script being written for reality right before our very eyes. So this is your lesson tonight for Uranus and Taurus. Now, what's going to happen if some people are kind of hip to the trip? Maybe they're saying to themselves, gee, you know, I'm not really good at taking a handout. This is not how I was raised. This is not how I've gotten by in life. I'm not sure I want that money. I'd really like to be able to earn my money. Do you think that there's people out there like that? Bet your ass there is. They're still out there, believe it or not. What about people who might be on the religious side of things and see this in very, how shall we say this, apocalyptic symbolism, apocalyptic kind of ways? What do you think they're going to do? You think they're going to take the card? I doubt it. And what about these so-called patriots? What about these so-called patriots who understand what the game is? You think they're going to take the card? It's doubtful. So what's going to happen to those people? What happens to the people that don't want to take the card? Do you think that those people are just going to be kind of left on the sidelines? Oh, sorry, you're not taking the card? Oh, well, you know, good luck. Good luck with you. You know, you have a chance here. You know, let us know how it goes. There's a nice patch of land out there in Nevada. It's really big. We own a lot of Nevada. We can send you out there. Not a lot of water, but good luck. You think that'll happen? These people that really don't want to take the card, they're going to be a bit of an issue for this new called system that they want to introduce. So this is where Bill Barr comes in. You know Bill Barr, the guy that was just, you know, kind of running interference for Trump during the during the impeachment. Remember impeachment? Like, how long ago was the impeachment? That was like years ago now, wasn't it? Totally years ago. Anyway, Bill Barr wants the DOD, the DOJ. He wants the DOJ to have more power. More power. Should we see what Bill Barr's up to? Let's do that. You know, look, this is a bit of a political time, and I know I'm being a little tongue-in-cheeky around the whole thing, but it's important so you understand that this is all falling into that heavy-duty stellium of Capricorn, okay? No, not Bill Burr. He's funny, though. He's funny. He's a bit of a cuck, but he's still funny. Bill Burr. No, Bill Barr. Bill Barr. Oh, good. Good. Finally, let's push back on this shit. Let's push back on this, man. Oh, come on. I tell you, some of these websites are just a pain in the ass. You know, they're using ad blocker. You're not using ad blocker. Please disable your ad blocker. Hold on. Okay, there he is, Bill Barr. DOJ emergency powers report raises ire among conservatives and liberals. Republican and Democratic lawmakers reacted with concern Saturday to a Politico report that the Department of Justice is seeking new powers to ask judges to detain people indefinitely without trial in emergency situations. Ooh. The big picture, Politico reports that the DOJ documents for Congress have reviewed detail of the department's requests to lawmakers on a host of topics, including the statute of limitations, asylum, and the way court hearings are conducted. The unconfirmed report prompted Doug Stafford, the chief strategist for Rand Paul, to tweet his agreement with Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who criticized such a measure. Now, here we go. Now we got the two sides coming together in perhaps a little bit more of an organic way. This is Ms. Cortez. The Justice Department has quietly asked Congress for the ability to ask chief judges to detain people indefinitely without trial during emergencies. Part of a push for new powers that comes as the coronavirus spreads to the United States. Now, I'm sure there are you Q-tippers who believe that this is a good thing, that Bill Barr is going to use these powers in order to detain the so-called adrenochrome junkies and adrenochrome pushers. Be careful. It's a slippery slope. It is a slippery slope. You have to ask yourself, do you trust Bill Barr? Do you trust Bill Barr? Do you trust the guy whose father hired Jeffrey Epstein and gave Jeffrey Epstein a start? Do you trust that guy? Don't know. That's for you to decide, right? But that's out in the public dialogue right now. So what happens to people if they've got some kind of, I don't know, beef or deal with this new card? They don't like the card. They don't like where the card is headed. And what if they're kind of active about not liking the card? Well, if this thing gets pushed through, then there could be a whole new version of so-called justice in the good old United States of America. Is that a Uranus and Taurus thing? No, it's probably the accumulation of all this heavy-duty Capricorn that's going on right now. Let's go back to the chart of the moment. So I'm just giving you guys some insights, right? Uranus and Taurus is really going to be the radical end, or the radical revisioning, or the radical redistribution of assets. Oh yeah, redistribution. Yep. Where are they going to get that $1 trillion? You ever wonder that? Well, if the interest rates go minus instead of a bailout, guess what we're going to have? We're going to have a bail-in. They're basically going to take people's bank accounts and suck their money up, maybe to the tune of a couple $1 trillion that's out there, right? But it's okay. It's okay. You're doing your part for the country. It's okay. You're taking one for the team, because there's a great big new world that's going to be rolled out as a result of this. And I'm not saying that that's going to happen, but if those interest rates hit minus, the bail-ins, not the bailouts, are going to take place. And it's a way theoretically where they can pick up that, that spare $2 trillion that they're kind of looking for with this stuff. So this is going to happen. At some point, it's going to happen. Now, what would be even better is if some economic wizard out there came up with an alternative system that wouldn't be dependent upon the two magic $1 trillion platinum pieces, and that we could still have some relationship with so-called cash. But with Saturn and Aquarius squaring really now Uranus and Taurus, and that square is on, right? That may not be the case. That may not be the case. Remember, we're going from the so-called corporate world, or the world of top-down governance, which is the Capricornian realm, the 10th house. We're shifting away from that. So the people that will be making decisions, or the people that will formulate sort of the new paradigm, will not be coming out of the old style or the old version of so-called free market capitalism. It's not going to be happening. So there's going to be a whole different set of talking points, bullet points, contractual points that are going to look more group-oriented, more, shall I say, socialistic, right? That's where this is headed. So Saturn in Aquarius represents gravity.
Battery low.
Battery and focus, excuse me.
Power on.
It's my little sound system. So we're being gravitationally sucked into Saturn and Aquarius. That's what it feels like, right? They've already got the mold. They've cast the mold. Now it's just using like a suction pump to suck us right into that. My father was a jeweler. We used to see that when he would create his rings. Molds, vacuum pumps, wax, all that stuff. All right, let me check in with you guys in Chatlandia, see what's going on. Let's see what we got here. Are we back? Are we still on the air? Let me go back here. Oh man, hold on. Should be on the air. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Welcome to live chat. Battery low. Let's see. We have alternative systems, open source cryptocurrency system, and more decentralized ideas are popping up everywhere. Good. We need them, actually. Let's see. What else do we have? I just realized Robert's still naked. Yeah. Since they're doing a banking reset, why not an internet reset? Well, I talked about that. That's going to, Masaki, I think that's coming. Because you don't want a bunch of dissidents talking about shit that other people who really, really have great ideas don't want them to be talking about, because their ideas might appear a little draconian. Their ideas might appear to be a little, how shall we say, heavy, right? So yeah, I can totally see that. Let's see. Tauruses are awesome. I like Tauruses. I'm into Taurus. I'm a big fan of Taurus. I like Taurus. My 7th house cusp is Taurus. Do I need to say anything more about that? Okay. That's how close I am to that kind of Taurian feeling in my chart. All right, let's move on. I know brief chart of the moment, but we know what's up. We know what's up, right? If you didn't know what's up now, then you kind of do now. Kind of do now. All right, let's see what we have here. 4 planets in Taurus. Justin's showing off all of his Taurus planets. He's got a lot of Taurus in his chart. I've seen his chart. Okay. Somebody asked me about Italy and if I could do a chart in Italy to see what's kind of going on there. So I punched up Italy's chart. Here we go. So we're looking at the June 10th. This is when they have the new constitution coming out of World War II, the back end of Mussolini's. You know, Mussolini came up with the term fascism. Do you know that? Came up with the term fascism. You know, you ever see those big bundles with like the kind of the little accent on top? That's called the fascisti. The fascisti. Anyway, Mussolini coined the term fascism, and that's when the government and corporations would form one bond and one entity. And we can pretty much say that that's happened. Okay. All right. So what was happening with Italy? Italy is a very Gemini country. It's a very, very Gemini country. Sun in Gemini, true node in Gemini, and not quite a full moon there, getting ready to be a bit of a full moon. Moon in Scorpio. Oh, yeah. You know, so Italy's got a pretty charged 8th house. Pretty charged 8th house. I was in Italy for a very brief period of time, just a few days. And I went to Damanhur, this place called Damanhur. And it was really a trip, right? I was in the south of France. And I was at this music convention in Cannes. And I was sick as a dog, man. I was so sick. It was when I was in the music business. And I partied my ass off. Oh, and I met a Taurus there too. How about that? I had a Taurus experience there. We went out to this little island off the coast of Cannes where the man in the iron mask was in prison. We walked around that island. It was a very nice time, actually. It's the kind of time that I was actually envisioning and sharing with you at the beginning of the show. So I got really sick though, because that was back in those days when it was my motto. Anything worth doing is worth overdoing. Yeah. So I was really sick, but I managed to get out of bed. And I took a train on a Sunday. I got on this train and I went all the way to Italy that night. And I wound up, it was the last train, and I wound up in this little town called Ivrea, which is where the Olivetti typewriter manufacturer was based. Still is, I believe. I'm not sure if they're making typewriters these days. Probably moved on sometimes. Anyway, I went there, and I didn't speak a word of Italian, obviously, but the conductor was a very nice guy, and I asked him for like a pension, right? His name's pension. I knew that word. And he took me out of the train in the station, and he pointed down the street. He said, "Aguila Azul, Aguila Azul." So I go down, I got my bag, and I'm walking down Ivrea. It's very late at night. There's nobody out in the street, kind of like now. And I'm walking on, what am I looking for? All of a sudden, I see this neon sign, Blue Eagle. It was the Aguila Azul. It was the Blue Eagle. So I go, okay, I guess this must be the place. So I walk in and I open the door. It was weird. It was totally weird. I opened the door, and it's like the lobby of like a hotel or whatever, pension or whatever. And in that lobby, there was a round table, and there were these Italian men playing poker. And one of them was a dwarf. Okay. It was like I'd walked into a David Lynch movie, and they all look at me. They all stare from their cards and look at me. I'm like, hey, I'm here to get a room. And then one of the guys pops up and, I get the keys, I get my room. And I go up there, so I was really tired. So I was watching Italian TV. And I was really struck by the fact, it was late, that most of the commercials on Italian TV were about beds. Right? They were about beds. And I think I tapped into like one of the soft core porn channels that was running late at night or early in the morning. But you know, the Italians are they're very, how should we say, romantic people. And here we have the sun in the true node in the 8th house. So this is Scorpio's house, obviously, right? And Gemini is a little on the kinky side, you know. So they got a little Fellini going on here in the 8th house. And what's really interesting too is that it's a very progressive country in a lot of ways, you know, with that Sun Uranus conjunction. And Italy was one of the great post-war economies in Europe, and certainly have created a lot of really, really interesting artists. And I was watching. I got really hung up on this video of James Brown doing a live show. It's like a TV show in Italy from 1971. It was really great, you know. And they were in a lot of ways, they were quite progressive. And even some of their music was very, very, very progressive. Like in the progressive rock scene, some Italian bands were very, very progressive. One called PFM. But a lot of their kind of progressive, interesting, sort of countercultural energy is hidden, 8th house oriented, right? Definitely 8th house oriented. And what's fascinating is here, I mean, we all know that that's a country that really values family, really, really values family. And we have Saturn up here on the midheaven in the sign of Cancer, and Venus also in the sign of Cancer. So women, mothers, grandmothers, you know, we can see that with the chart. Now, what's really interesting as it relates to the coronavirus is the Pluto opposition to Saturn in Italy's chart, okay? That to me is very indicative of death and mortality, especially when it comes to, guess what? Older people. Excuse me. So we can see Saturn, we can see Pluto right here, right in opposition. And even the Saturn opposition, right? When there's a Saturn opposition in a chart, and that Saturn opposition happens 44 and let's see, so 30, you're 14, 20, 28, 44, 44 and 88. So from here all the way around, that's going to be an 88-year transit, right? So from here to here, 88-year transit. So whatever, and I haven't looked at this, but whatever Italy was going through 88 years ago, is that like, hold on, Saturn opposition? It's probably when the country was started, right? So let's see, Saturn here. So let's see, yeah. And the 88-year pivot, like Trump is going to be going through, let me get here. So it'd be 40, 44, and 30, 74. My bad, 74. It's a 74-year transit. My bad. I had to get it in my head. So it would be 44 and then 30 years after this. So 74. My bad, not 88. Go back. So this is a very interesting time because that opposition is usually when something has to change. You know, when you're 44, you've got to flip your life script. When you're 74, you got to flip your life script. This is what happens. And then 30 is, of course, the Saturn return, right? So these half oppositions are very, very important. So, and ironically enough, right? So if we go back, and we went back, let's see, was it 74 years ago, right? 74 years ago, that's when Saturn was here. So 74 years ago, Italy went through a major change. But here now, with Pluto, it's not just your typical Saturn opposition. So they're going to have to change on some level, but death, right? Death, the great leveler or the great equalizer, is affecting Saturn here, and that represents the older population. Because if you look at what's happened in Italy, like their older population has been really hit very, very hard with coronavirus. I think 80% of the deaths in Italy have come to people over the age of 80, right? And they have one of the oldest populations in Europe. So this is the Pluto-Saturn opposition. This is what happens when we get into the Pluto-Saturn opposition. Now, in the United States, where I believe the United States is Saturn in Libra, if I'm not mistaken. So that'll be when Pluto goes into Aries. That'll be a big time for the United States. Really, really big time. It's not for a while. We're going to get into Pluto in Aquarius. It's going to go for a ways. We're going to get into Pluto in Pisces. When Pluto hits Aries, I think that the human story as we know it is going to be either over or done or completely and utterly different, because it's going to represent the rebirth or the spring again of this planetary consciousness. If you go back to Pluto and Aries in the history of this country, that's when the robber barons began to do their reset magic, and theoretically invent everything, right? So you have your J.P. Morgans, Rockefeller, you know the crew, you know who they are. J.P. Morgan, Rockefeller, who is it? Getty, all those cats, right? Van Dynes, all those people. That was when Pluto was in Aries, and then Pluto in Taurus. Now, Rockefeller was born with Pluto in Aries. Some of those guys were born with Pluto in Taurus. But that's when the reset really kicks in with Pluto in Aries. So once that goes all the way around, right, we come to the finality of that cycle. But in terms of Italy, they're having their Pluto-Saturn opposition now. And they're getting hit really, really hard. Very hard. The other thing that's going on is that Uranus is opposing the moon in their chart. It's very disruptive, extremely disruptive. And with Uranus in the 7th house, I'll tell you right now, it's probably have a severe impact on relationships and also money. But, Italy's part of the EU. And they don't have their own economy anymore, really. I mean, they give a lot to the EU. I think they're one of the top 3 or 4 contributors to the EU, quite high. But certainly hasn't helped them out with their medical stuff. Now, what's also of interest here is that they have Mercury at 1 degree Cancer. So we have a theme coming here, right? What's going to happen? What is going to happen to Italy when the true node hits Mercury in their chart? Are they going to try to oust their leader? Are they going to try to run their version of Brexit? What's going to happen here? So what is Mercury doing in the chart? Not a lot. Square to Neptune. That's interesting. We're going to get into the Mercury-Neptune square with Dr. Fauci. Dr. Fauci's chart, because he's got a Neptune-Mercury square. So what's going to go on here? Are we going to see something coming out of Italy that might be different than the narrative we've been given? Possibly. Or will we see somebody drive a false narrative or a narrative that might not be consistent with what we're seeing? Would they drive that one? I mean, this is going to be an interesting time. It's going to be, because, where is the leadership of Italy? Where are they coming out and really, I don't see anybody. I mean, I don't watch Italian TV. Don't get me wrong. I mean, if I could, I would, but I don't. We don't have a channel here. But I haven't seen a lot of leadership really come out and talk about what's going on. And frankly, I mean, here's the beauty with this coronavirus thing. All you see is empty streets. Maybe you get a few hospital scenes every now and then, but all you see is empty streets. And I guess that's enough, right? Oh, look, it must be terrible there. Nobody's walking around. They're all in the hospital. They're all fucking dying. So what's going to come out here? What kind of communication are we going to get from Italy over the course of the next couple of months? That, I think, is interesting. They got that Libra ascending Jupiter there. Romance. Romantic country, of course. Very romantic. And that Scorpio moon, square Pluto. Smoldering Scorpio moon. Squaring Pluto. It's interesting. There's a lot of psychic energy in this chart. You know, with Mercury in Cancer trining the moon. So the sort of the foundation for Italy tends to be, I think, very intuitive based on this chart, right? There's a lot of intuitive energy here. A lot of intuitive. Of course, Mars and Pluto and Leo, so dramatic, right? Drama, theater, cinema, great 10th house. Fantastic. Fantastico. Spaghetti Westerns, right there. Mars and Leo. 10th house. Clint Eastwood made his fortune there, right? Well, not his fortune, but he really kicked into gear there. Clint Eastwood born, if I'm not mistaken, May 31st, if I'm not mistaken. So that would be what, about 8 or 9 Gemini. So that would be, his sun would be conjuncting Uranus there. Probably has Venus in Gemini. We know he has the sun in Gemini. So Sun Uranus conjunction. This is where Clint Eastwood really kind of turned on his star power, right? He hooked up with Italy's Uranian and even a wide conjunction with its sun. And he was definitely, you know, kind of a very scorpionic character in a lot of those movies, especially Fistful of Dollars, which is classic Gemini movie, playing both sides against the middle. We have Neptune, of course, our friend Neptune, trining the 5th house in Italy's chart. And what is it doing? It's squaring Uranus. That's a tough square, and squaring the Italian sun. Okay. Whenever you get into Neptune squares to the sun, it drains energy. It's not quite as bad as an opposition. An opposition is just like, it's like a floodgate that's just open. The energy just drains out the other side. The square to Neptune is definitely challenging. So I would say that morale would be a real issue for people in Italy right now. Serious issue, major issue. It's not going to end anytime soon. Like, this is a very tough time for that country. You've got the Pluto opposition to Saturn and the Neptune square to the sun. I don't think it gets, and then you've got the Uranus opposition to the moon. Homes, mothers, women, sexuality, right? It's a country that is a very sensual country. And you got a Uranus moon opposition. You can't meet, you can't go to the bar, you can't have, you know, go out and have these great, wonderful meals and food. And man, this is rough. It's a rough time for Italy, I have to say. Very rough time. And astrologically as well. So Saturn's coming in here, 4th house, is going to change the structure and the foundation of the country. I'm not sure how much more socialist it can get. Pretty socialist already in a lot of ways. But socialist now at a high level with the EU. I don't call it a high level. You know what I'm saying? But this is a very difficult time. And even now with the Sun-Neptune opposition, very difficult, very difficult, very, very difficult. But luckily, Italy has Jupiter on the ascendant. So our good friends, family, people of Italy, keep your spirits up. You know, make sure that you live your life still in a way that is artistic and creative and loving. You know, the more that you invest in Jupiter, the more that it invests back. So we wish you all very well, no matter what's happening there, whether it is the reanimation of the Black Plague, or whether it's not quite as bad, but is certainly communicated to us that it's bad. We know your country shut down. We know you're shut down. Have faith. Have faith. Make sure you don't lose touch with the things that are important to you and the soul of your country and your quote unquote people. So from America, from Fredericksburg, Texas, we wish you all the best and continue to be the best Italy that you can. Okay? All right. God bless you guys. You know, you're an important country and a very important culture. Very important. Now that Pope guy, that's a whole other thing, whole other story. And I know that's not even Italian. That's an entity unto itself. Okay, let's check in with you guys. in Chatlandia. Let's see what's happening. Empty streets means cleaner sheets, more meats to eat, and no more pooping on your feet. Lard Man, 2020. But I'm not a rapper. Oh, good. Empty streets means cleaner sheets. I don't know if it means cleaner sheets. Maybe. More meats to eat. Possibly, if you've been prepping. Not bad, Lord Man. Not bad. Let's see, where else? What do we have here? At least we can play in the yard. But my 9-year-old is already going stir crazy. Take her out for a walk. 2 or 3 people, right? 2 or 3 people can go out. Go out, take her for a walk. Why not? Okay. I think we still have some people here. We're going to go for a few more minutes. Let's get into Fauci's chart. This guy, man. That was progress chart, which is probably worth looking at. And here's the natal chart. Bring up the natal chart. He's a very, very accomplished man. Let's see, which one is this? It's a 24 GW. It's this one. He's a very accomplished man. You should listen to him. He knows everything. All right. So Mr. Fauci is a Capricorn, 2 degrees. He may be small, but he has very tall ambition. Now, I don't know his birth time, and I have been chastised for casting charts without the birth time. You know, you cast what's called a sunrise chart. You see, there's the sunrise right over there. Right there. I'm casting the sunrise chart. And actually, I do think a sunrise chart fits Mr. Fauci because he's quite ambitious. Quite ambitious. And he has Mercury in the 12th house. So he gets to use his great mind in laboratories like the 12th house. Yes? Kind of fits, right? Well, Mr. Fauci is about to undergo a bit of a crisis, I have to say. With the South Node on his sun, it is a diminishing of power, in my estimation. So, Mr. Fauci, enjoy your 15 minutes, because in another 45 days, I think the time is up. I think the clock is up, Mr. Fauci. So enjoy it while you can. Now, that might mean that somebody more important or more powerful will come in and take over, or perhaps his opinion or point of view might be somewhat diminished by the statistics if they give us real statistics about what's happening, right? In any case, this will not be the best of times for Mr. Fauci. He's crossing swords with the Donald. And the Donald has been an advocate of chloroquine. And Mr. Fauci and his medical minions, well, they're not as impressed with chloroquine because it's about 5 cents a pill? Yeah. And there's no guarantee, but the French have had pretty good success with chloroquine and being able to take care of coronavirus, or at least treat it, maybe not cure it. No, he wants to hit that home run. He wants to hit that grand slam and get that vaccine. Get that 450-foot vaccine right out of the park, right? Because think about the money. Think about how many vaccines they'll have to sell. Because they're going to sell them. Even if they're part of that stimulus package, somebody's got to pay for them, right? That's a lot of money. That's a whole lot of vaccine money. And those little pills, and you don't make as much off those little pills now, do you? There's something here. And I got to tell you, again, that Mr. Fauci has some Neptune squares in his chart. He's got a Neptune square to Mercury, and he's got a Neptune square to the sun, right? We've got an easy 22 to 25 Mercury in Sag, and Neptune in Virgo. And then 2 degrees Sun squared Neptune, also in Virgo. You know what they say when people have Neptune, Mercury squared Neptune in their charts, right? Let's just say they don't always represent the truth. They don't represent the truth. Mercury Neptune squares are generally an indicator of a prevaricator, okay? Now, sometimes if Mercury has another aspect, it can actually be, oh, I don't know, positive in some ways, right? Like if you look at Trump's chart, if I'm not mistaken, I know he's got a Mercury Neptune square, but he's also got something going on with Jupiter and Libra. Is Mercury trining that? Is it late Libra? I have to look at his chart. But let's just say that Trump with the Mercury Neptune square has played a little fast and loose with the truth at times. Would that be fair to say? I think it'd be fair to say. On the other hand, you know, Trump is a devotee of Norman Vincent Peale, in which he gets the most out of that Mercury Neptune square. Tremendous, fabulous. We're good friends. Japan built the most beautiful Olympic village. And I'm very good friends with Prime Minister Abe, very good friends. I just talked with him today. It is the most beautiful Olympic venue I've ever seen. You know, and it was on time and within budget. Very important. So, you know, that's Trump with that Mercury Neptune square. He pumps it up. He's a pumper. He also plays a little fast and loose with the truth. Fauci plays a little fast and loose with the truth as well, but without the pumping. He doesn't pump. He doesn't pump like Trump. He also has a Sun Neptune square. This is not somebody to be trusted. I'm just telling you right now. He's not. Now, you may trust him with the grand scheme of things because he's credentialed and you want to be able to follow his orders and do what he says you're supposed to do. From an astrological perspective, I'm just telling you what I see. It's not a trustworthy chart. Let's be honest. This is not a trustworthy chart. This is somebody who plays kind of fast and loose with those Neptunian sorts of things like details, truth, validity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. He's got Moon in Scorpio. Maybe he should move to Italy. Be a good place for him. Scorpio. Oh, he's Italian. How about that? He should go to Italy. He should go to Italy and help Italy. That would be a great gig for him. Holy smokes. Scorpio Moon, Italian. He could go to Italy and he could be a hero, a real hero to those people. He's come home. Tony, come on. He's got a Moon Pluto square, Moon opposition to Jupiter and Saturn. Man, this guy's into power. Moon Pluto squares, power. He also likes money. And very professional. He's very, very professional. Saturn in Taurus. Look at that. He's got a Jupiter Saturn trine. This guy is super ambitious. Very ambitious. Way ambitious. Uranus is coming to town here. It's going to conjunct Jupiter, and Uranus is going to conjunct Saturn. That's going to be a really interesting, like right now, Uranus is opposed to, I think Fauci, I'm going to go on record here. I think something's coming to Fauci. He's going to be exposed. That's what I think. Because there is a radical reassessment and readjustment that I think is getting ready to take place in this chart. South node of the sun, Uranus, Jupiter. Now, maybe it's just wishful thinking on my part. Maybe that's just wishful because, you know, I'm all about truth and truth in the press, freedom of the press. These are very, very American things covered under theoretically the Constitution. And again, I'm just talking about this from an astrological perspective. Like there's trouble in Mr. Fauci's chart. Now, he may be so well connected and so surrounded by very powerful people that even the greatest hint or danger or trouble in his chart might be able to be overcome by people within the circles of power and influence. But sometimes the logos has its way with people. And look at that. He's got Chiron getting ready to conjunct his south node. Things are not looking quite all that well for Mr. Fauci. I think that there's trouble in Fauci town. That's my sense, okay? Trouble in Fauci town. Something's going to happen. And if he gets into a power struggle with Trump, he'll lose. I guarantee you. I guarantee you. Now, maybe they're on the same team and they're buttering each other's bread. I mean, I don't know. It's quite possible. Because who the fuck really knows what's going on at a certain level? But I do know that Trump was pushing the malaria pill and Fauci was pushing back, really pushing back. And when Trump was giving a speech yesterday, the press conference, the update, Fauci had weird body language. And Trump did say, what was it? The deep state department. He said that. And Fauci did a faceplant, right? He thought it was either funny or I don't know what was going on. But there were times where he could tell he was like a little, I wouldn't say anxious, restless. Mr. Fauci was restless. Astrologically, I think there's trouble in Fauci town. That's what I think. South node in the sun, Chiron on the south node. He's going to have a Neptune opposition, not for a while, but it's coming. Uranus conjunct Jupiter and Saturn. Like this is kind of a big moment for him in a lot of ways, but it could really backfire. It's interesting. Mars, Pluto conjunction. Again, is it the first house? We don't know, but we do know that these are the celestial bodies. The celestial bodies. Let's see. Does he have a yod going on here? True node in Libra. No, he's very convincing, isn't he? With the true node, he's very diplomatic. Mr. Fauci. Is he a professor? Is he a doctor? He's a doctor, right? Dr. Fauci. Oh, look at that. Chiron in Leo. He's into what he does, man. He's totally into it. He's a healer. He's not just any healer, right? He's a Leo kind of guy. You know, he's part of this group. Now, apparently, I'm not sure about this, but apparently he okayed like working on some kind of bat virus or bat thing back in 2017? Look it up. Look up Fauci bat virus 2017. You'll find some interesting information. Very interesting information. I wonder if that's going to come back to maybe haunt him. You know, I'd like the press to ask really good questions. Really, really good questions. That'd be a question that I would ask. A lot of Scorpio. Look at that. A lot of Scorpio. Mars in Scorpio. Moon in Scorpio. Yeah, that's intensity. This guy's into power. He's definitely into power. It's right here. Jupiter, Saturn, trine Sun. Right there. And of course, that moon. The moon Pluto square. Definitely. Okay. Just going to keep going here. Let's look up this fine woman. Well, I did Fauci's progress chart. And here, you can show you the progress chart. It's kind of interesting. So his progress moon is in Libra, Virgo, and it is almost an exact conjunction with Neptune in his chart, right? Because progressed Neptune's just not going to change much. That's quite interesting. Very, very interesting. So with the moon Neptune conjunction, the moon taps into the collective unconscious, right? I mean, it's very, when we talk about the moon, we talk about things like mass psychology, being able to, influence people's moods, people's emotions, that sort of thing. So this is kicking into pretty high gear for Dr. F. And his moon is going to be moving into Libra in 3 months, right? So it's going to be conjuncting exact his true node in Libra. That's kind of a peak for him, I think, in the progress chart. And then that moon is going to move on. And about halfway through this transit, so it's going to be about 18 months from now, his progress moon will be squaring his progress Mars, right? Yeah, that'll be an interesting time for him. Again, right now, I think he's really tapped into sort of the public psyche, the psyche of the public. And again, I don't know if this is really his chart because I did a sunrise chart. But this is how it would shake out with the progress chart. And this would be in the 6th house, which is health. Yes. And then progress Neptune is beginning to conjunct his progress Sun in Pisces. So the closer that comes in, let's just see that that Neptune Sun conjunction, and I'll be fair, it can be very compassionate, very empathic, very kind of, spiritually or religiously driven, okay? It can happen. It could also happen where there's a great deal of confusion about who the person is. It can be delusions of grandeur, even, with the Neptune Sun conjunction in the progressed Sun. At the very least, it'll be interesting for Mr. Fauci, or maybe not. Okay, remember though, he is accredited, he is an expert, and you should be listening to him. Follow his every word, okay? All right, let me just go through and blow through this next chart. I really want to spend a whole lot of time here. This is, hold on, let's not share there. You suck too much of my world. This is Deborah Brix. She's the woman that's up there talking about millennials and how great millennials are. And millennials are going to save the world. And millennials are going to save the world because they're going to listen to her, right? They're going to listen to her. Have you seen it? Have you seen the video? And she's always wearing these kind of scarves and wraps. She looks very dramatic. So I put her as a Leo rising. Leo rising. We do know she's an Aries. And she is very focused and very driven in a lot of ways. But she was appointed by Mike Pence. So I don't know what to say about Mike Pence. I'm not a big Pence guy. I was watching The Amazing Polly. Is there any Amazing Astounding Polly or Polly? You know her. She's really good. She's great at finding out where people work and who they work with. She's got a new video out. You should check it out, really, because she looks at the links between Brix, Fauci, Bill Gates, and Bono, of all people. Does that surprise you that Bono's in the mix? They work for a foundation, one of these organizations, right? One of these, Aquarian groups that, do good all over the planet. Anyway, they all work together, and it's all about funding and research. Check out her video and find out more about her. She's an eye blinker, man. You ever watch her? It's funny watching her and Pompeo together. Pompeo doesn't blink. He blinks like once every, 45 seconds. And Deborah Brix is doing semaphore. She's signaling somebody with her. It's bizarre, man. The heavy blinking thing is NLP, by the way. And I think she's got some NLP skills going on, because she talks to everybody like they're children. Anyway, let's look at her chart. She's an Aries, Sun Mercury conjunction, very focused. Now, I would not underestimate this woman, okay? I would not underestimate her at all. Jupiter in Leo, Pluto in Leo, right? In a wide trine with the Sun. So this is somebody who knows how to really expand their energy and then use it. Oh, by the way, Amazing Polly has a thing for Mike Pence. I don't get it. Well, she's not really a thing. She's very impressed with Mike Pence. Does she really know who Mike Pence is? Steve Crimmy told me she's a Christian. And that's why, because Mike Pence he's very Christian. Right? Anyway, Jupiter-Pluto conjunction, that's power. This is a person in the power, very much in the power. and able to really channel it, and very self-guided, very self-directed, because that's what Aries does. Don't underestimate this woman. And she does TED Talks, and so she's kind of a rock star in some ways. And she will not be deterred. This is a chart that will not be deterred. Not. However, relationships, not quite her forte, with the South Node conjuncting Venus in her chart. And then Venus squaring Jupiter and Venus squaring Pluto. That's interesting. Again, I don't know who she is. Right? I kind of do, but I kind of don't. But I would say that this would be the chart of somebody who's a little on the unfaithful side. Just a little bit. Right? Because in relationship, that's South Node, and it's not, just because she has Venus there, she has to do relationship, right? I mean, she has to. She just can't run the solo trip. She's got to be in a relationship. But it's generally not her best suit in some ways. And with Venus squaring Pluto and Jupiter in her chart, let me just make sure I got that right. Square to Jupiter, and square to Pluto. Again, that has to do with power. Venus represents resources, and in Gemini, there's a lot of crosstalk, cross chatter. She's somebody who can play both sides. I think wasn't she hired by Obama or John? There's an interesting story Polly talks about, where she was pregnant and she was actually working on HIV. Like back in the days, the HIV, the blood supply, all that stuff. And she was pregnant, and she had to have, or it was thought that she should have a blood transfusion, or else risk her life after she'd given birth. Now, she knew that there's a really good chance that the blood supply was tainted. So she didn't want any blood. Right? She would say, no, I don't want blood. So she risked her life, and she lived, obviously. And then they found out that indeed the blood supply at that hospital was tainted with A/HIV blood. I mean, that's the story, and John Kerry talks about that. But when we get into Venus-Pluto squares, it's a power trip. Big power trip. And wanting to expand, right? But I'm not sure. I mean, sometimes in Venus-Pluto squares, people can get faithful but bordering on obsessed with a Venus-Pluto square. Jupiter blows that up. I'm sure she'd have some very interesting tales to tell about perhaps her intimate life, or at least contractually. Like, I think she's somebody that can change sides. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what side it is, right? She'll change sides, and she'll constellate her relationship and her agreements to whatever the power is. Now, theoretically, she should be involved in truth, right? I mean, she's got this true node Saturn conjunction. Truth is her karma in this lifetime. But it's also challenged in a lot of ways. Venus-Saturn opposition. Saturn says you got to get down here. You got to get down here, and you got to deal with Saturn, Dr. Brix. But with Venus up here and in conjunction with the South Node, it's like, well, I don't know. Those rules, they may not apply to me. They may not apply to me. It's interesting because she has got to tell the truth. If she doesn't tell the truth, there are karmic repercussions for that. Bigly. And here comes the South Node wheeling around in Sagittarius. It's kind of the truth-o-meter. It's going to come in there. Tick, 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 tick. Are you telling the truth, Dr. Brix? Tick, 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 tick. Somebody wants to know. True node coming up. She's rising, though. This is a person whose star is rising. Even if this isn't really her chart, she's going to have the true node eventually conjunct Venus. And that's going to be when? At the end of the nodal transit. So 2 years out from the end of... So 2 years out, roughly almost 2 years out from March. So it's going to be what, May. So 2021, right around 2022. That'll be an interesting time. Yeah, what is the world going to look like in 2022? One can speculate, and I probably will. Oh, look, she's got her Mars return. Look at that. Man, she is just so kicking ass and taking names now with her Mars return. And she's got Pluto on her Mars. This woman is indomitable right now. Pluto-Mars conjunction, and she is feeling it. It's going to be on her Mars for a while. Now, Pluto is going to oppose Uranus. It's not going to be for a while, maybe about another 2 years. That'll be interesting. And then she's got Moon in Aquarius and Saturn. She's got all these really intense conjunctions right now. Saturn on her moon. She's going to have Jupiter on her moon too. Rising star. Rising star. You will not see the end of Dr. Brix. Dr. Brix is going to be in your head for a little while, at least for the next year. So you got that Jupiter-Saturn conjunction on her moon. She is now the mother of science, right? I mean, that's what's happening. She's the mother of science with that moon. She's talking to the millennials. She just loves those millennials. Interesting. Very interesting. She's playing a role. Saturn on her moon, man. Should I play you the video? I actually have it up here. I'll play the video. I'm not going to get a copyright strike. This. See if I can find it. She does power talks. Here it is. Not very long. Give me a second.
Now to our older population or those with.
Here he is. Here she is. Saturn on her moon. Bill Nye, the science guy, your time is up, brother. Here we go.
To our older population or those with pre-existing medical conditions, everyone in the household needs to focus on protecting them. Everyone in the household. I want to speak particularly to our largest generation now, our millennials. I have the mom of two wonderful millennial young
Trump.
women who are bright and hardworking, and I will tell you what I told to them. They are the core group that will stop this virus. They are the group
All right, hold on.
successfully.
Watch Trump here. You got to watch Trump here. Watch the eyes when she says you are the core group that will stop. And Trump does not nod, by the way. He doesn't nod. Watch him. Watch his eyes here.
In the household. I want to speak particularly to our largest generation now, our millennials. I have the mom of two wonderful millennial young women who are bright and hardworking, and I will tell you what I told to them. They are the core group that will stop this virus. They are the
He goes,
group that communicates successfully, independent of picking up a phone. They intuitively know how to contact each other.
He's bored.
In large social gatherings. We're asking all of them to hold their gatherings to under 10 people. Not just in bars and restaurants, but in homes. We really want people to be separated at this time.
we want people to be separated at this time. He doesn't dig her, by the way. Could you tell that? He did not dig her at all.
Feel that way. We understand others who may have been in contact.
No, Gail King. He didn't dig her at all. That's my sense. And he tried to get her fired. He tried to get her out. But I think Mike Pence kept her on board. Pence and Brix. Like that. Anyway, she's on the rise. Keep your eyes on this woman. The mother of science, Saturn conjunct Moon in Aquarius. The millennial mom. Bring them all together. Okay. All right. I'm going to do one more chart and then we'll call it a night. Thank you for hanging in there. In this 2 hours of good astrological talk, I think. And I appreciate you allowing me to sort of be a little more free than the social climate is defining and determining for us. You may want to try it sometime. Get your live stream up and just take your shirt off, just like me. It'd be very liberating for you. Okay, I want to talk about my friend Phil Fisher, and I may get emotional, actually. Okay, I don't often do like charts. By the way, before I get into Phil, a lot of celebrity deaths now. Kenny Rogers died yesterday. The gambler. You got to know when to hold him. You got to know when to fold him. And Kenny threw in his hand. Vaya con Dios, Kenny. You got out. Had a good time. I'm telling you. Genesis P-Orridge died. I've told stories about Genesis on this show. My brief interactions with him. See you, buddy. Not necessarily a fan. I use the word buddy, and maybe not in such a jocular sense of the term. And then Max von Sydow died. Now that's a big one. Max von Sydow, who looked like he was 70 years old ever since he was 30. So it didn't matter what movie he was in. He always looked like Max von Sydow, right? But he made his name and claim to fame with the Seventh Seal, where he is a war-weary crusader who has seen many of life lost either due to battle or plague, and decides to have a chess match with death. And he died right at the kind of the beginning or the inception of the coronavirus. But I want to talk about my friend Phil. And let me show you a picture of him. That's not him. It's Jared Kushner. Definitely not Phil. All right, let me find this thing. Here he is. Is that him? I'm not daft or dotty. I just have a lot of images on my desktop. Let me try this again. Here we go. So this is Phil Fisher, and this is my good friend Linda Dallaire, and I met Phil through Linda, and I've known Linda and I have been very close friends, dear friends since 1994. So and Linda and I we've had a few adventures in the world. Let's put it that way. I met Phil through Linda, and I had been told a great deal about Phil. And this is when they were married. Aren't they a great looking couple? And Linda, to this day, Linda is in her 70s and looks like she's in her late 50s. She's incredible. She's really just incredible, just an incredible person too. And Phil was Captain America. Phil's an Aries. We're gonna look at his chart. Phil was one of the giant, you know, we meet people in our life and they're interesting people. Some people are really fascinating. Some people are nice and okay. And then there are giants. Then there were real titans that you meet and run across, and Phil was one of them. Phil had patents on one of the most advanced maglev train systems in the world. This is going back to the 1990s when I first met Phil. Phil was way ahead of the game, way ahead of the game. And he had designed and gotten patents on his system, and it was called maglev. And he even figured out how you could shoot cars down a maglev track. And not only that, but he had come up with a technology that used bamboo to create the bridges and the trestles. And he came up with a new technology out of that called edge lock. And he has patents on that as well. And he had the most comprehensive model for fast, rapid, efficient mass transit I'd ever seen, period, end of story. And over the course of the time that I knew Phil, there were always people that were very willing to invest in his ideas, and they were simply a bit ahead of their time. And they even went so far as to create like a toy version of his maglev train in order to fund what he wanted to do. Back in the 90s, he was spending a lot of time up at the University of Washington and working with one of their engineers there. And he wrote a letter that said that Phil's designs and technology were years ahead of some of the best models for this type of transportation that were coming out of both Japan and Germany, which at that time were the leaders who were exploring maglev technology. But that's just one side of Phil. He had a very eccentric side, which of course you would think that it would be almost appropriate for an inventor and a genius. And I don't use that word a lot, but Phil Fisher was a genius. And he was an eccentric genius. Let me tell you, this guy, all he drove was Chrysler Imperials, like a 61 Chrysler Imperial. And when you got in his car, it was like you were in a spacecraft. He had this thing decked out, sound, crystals. I mean, it was like you're in the Millennial Falcon. I mean, it was really cool. And Phil never flew. He drove everywhere by car. And he had Chrysler Imperials, at least a dozen of them, in various warehouses across the country. So if he needed to go somewhere and get parts, he had a car waiting for it, right? This was Phil Fisher in a nutshell. And he was enthusiastic and generous and kind, and really typified the can-do American spirit, right? Phil was the innovative, creative inventor type that the story of this country was really built on. And unfortunately, for some of those people, their inventions and their creations don't see the light of day in their lifetime. And unfortunately, that's what happened to Phil. And Phil really hit some rough patches here in the last few years. And I don't want to get into the rough personal stuff, but no matter how bad it got or how rough it got, the same spirit that you saw right here with Captain America never went away. Unflagging spirit. I'll just share with you, and this is where I'm going to choke up a little bit. One time I had a van, and I was having a really rough time in my life. Yeah, I had very little money. I was going through a very rough patch. And I had a part in my van that went south. And it was a very complex part to find, number one. Number two, to put in. And Phil scooped me up one day, and we went through a salvage yard in Richmond, California. And we searched all over this goddamn salvage yard. And he spotted the one part that I needed in a pile of, just, it was a mountain of rusted car parts. And he went in there and he climbed that thing and he got in there and he pulled it out and he looked at it and says, this is the part. So we took it up to the front, I paid for it. And not only did he take me down to this salvage yard, he then spent the next 4.5 to 5 hours putting the damn thing on my van. And I had no money. I gave him something. I don't know what I had, but he didn't care. He didn't care. He didn't want the money. He just wanted to help. One of the kindest things. Sorry, I'm choking. This is a good dude. I really get choked up like this, but It's a good meal. So let's look at his chart. That'll help me focus. That'll really help me focus. How are you, Phil? I know you're in here somewhere. Go here. There's so many charts up and running. Hold on. Oh, it's over here. Give me a second. We just found out today about Phil, and he was totally beloved. He was a beloved dude, and the people in his community are they're shocked. But you know, I have to say that that the world that we're living in now and moving towards would be the type of world that Phil Fisher would have a very hard time with. All right, let's look at his chart. And I'll show you something about his chart, which is kind of mind-blowing and does have an astrological aspect to it that I think is kind of a bit of a teaching moment. Let's see what we got here. Let's just try this. I think this is it. Is that it? Nope, nope. Hold on. Let me get there. Hang with me, people. There it is. So Phil was a Sag rising, part of fortune in Capricorn, South Node on his part of fortune. Sun in Aries, and look at that Mercury, 0 degrees Aries. Like 0 Aries, and Phil had the 0 Aries mindset. He just always pushed through stuff. And what's really interesting too about Phil is he was very driven, but he was a dreamer. You know, he had Moon in Pisces. It's a very unusual combination. I mean, the Mercury Sun Moon conjunction is not that common in astrology. I'd say out of 100 charts, maybe 4 have the Moon Mercury conjunction. It's even less common when they're in different signs. So we just have, let's do the transits. We just had the Sun conjuncting Phil's Moon, and now it's on his Mercury. And he absolutely loved and adored his mother. We have the Sun in the 4th house with his mother. And we can see that with Mercury, some interesting things are going on. First, the trine to Pluto and the trine with Mars. So he was driven, literally driven, and he drove everywhere. This is a very creative mind. But he also had a bit of a challenge at times with reality. You know, the Neptune-Sun opposition, again, it gives the person, you know, something to shoot for, like a dream, right? Like a dream. Something grand, something fantastic, something quixotic, right? Tilting at windmills, that sort of thing. And sometimes people can come into one's life, especially with Neptune and Libra, and not always be the best facilitators of that dream. And Phil met his fair share of people that got on board his maglev idea and really ultimately could not help him or sustain it. And I think that there was also a misperception of Phil. And I was talking to my dear friend Linda earlier tonight, and Phil was a whiz kid. He didn't have a college degree. He was self-taught. And so when he was in these universities, it was very hard for him to get some kind of respect and some kind of cred. But it never stopped him. Never stopped him. And here we have that Mars-Saturn conjunction in his chart, you know, the love for his mother. But I also feel like this was Phil like doing good things. Like this was the aspect that helped me out when I had a really, really difficult time. And he went out of his way to, you know, to resurrect that part and put it on my van. And And then the true node in Gemini, and Uranus in Gemini, and Uranus being, of course, the quicksilver of his chart, and actually being nicely aspected. We have Uranus trine to Jupiter, which is genius, by the way. Uranus, Jupiter trines, is that right? No. Yes, Jupiter. My bad. It is. There it is. Uranus, Jupiter trine. Genius. People have Uranus, Jupiter trines are really bright, and they do really well with improvisation. And I'd say Phil was a bit of an improviser as well. Bit of an improviser. So nice trine with Uranus. The Uranus in his chart over here. Where is it? And we got the Sun, Uranus opposition. What is that so? It's not quite so. Is that Neptune? Oh, that's the Neptune opposition. Yeah. And then the quintile to Mercury. Oh, that's interesting. And then the sextile to the Sun. So he was really Uranian and driven. Quintiles are major gifts in the chart. So Phil was born with genius. He was a natural born genius with Uranus, Mercury quintile. Yep, absolutely. And he was, he had a Venus-Saturn square. And people with Venus-Saturn squares can be very devoted in a lot of ways. Right, Venus-Saturn square, right there, mystic rectangle. Let me tell you a little bit about what happened to Phil. Apparently, he fell and hit his head. This is a very Aries condition in a lot of ways, especially with Chiron and Black Moon Lilith also transiting through the sign of Aries at 6 degrees, both of them conjuncting his sun, right? So he hit his head, suffered a head injury, and 10 days later he died. Here we go, number 10. Interesting, huh? So 10 days ago, Phil had a head trauma and did not go to the hospital. And they found him this morning. Taking the train to heaven. Phil Fisher, wherever you are, I'm sure you are well on your way to your next destination, whatever that is. So, anyway, there you go. My dear friend Phil Fisher. All right. I'm going to get out of here before I get too maudlin. And I think we're going to be saying goodbye to a lot of people. That's what it feels like. We've come to the end of an age. We've come to the end of an era. And some people are just not meant to be part of whatever this next time is about. And if that's the case, and that's their agreement, and they're going to be occupying some other space-time dimension, then let's bless them and know that they're on to better things. And maybe when we reconnect these timelines, we'll see them again. That would be a great thing. At least the ones we want to see. I'm not sure I really want to see Genesis P-Origin. It was not a highlight for my life. It wasn't a low light. It wasn't a highlight either. Okay, let me take one more gander into Chatlandia. See what's going on. Okay. Yeah, a lot of hearts there. Yeah. Ani's being devoured by mosquitoes. All I can say is that those are some lucky mosquitoes. All right, I'm out of here. If you like the show, you want to donate, not donate, you want to subscribe, the link will be in the show page. I've got some reading specials going on right now. It's a great time to get a reading. That's all I can say. Really good inner stuff happening. And the channel is wide open. So take advantage of that. And I'll be back tomorrow. I'm going to do probably, maybe about a 45-minute, 15 minutes of flame, 50 minutes of flame light tomorrow. And I may do it a little bit later so I can get some sleep, but I'll do it tomorrow. And there's a very interesting video I want to show you. When you see it, you're going to go like this. That's all I'll say. Use your head to discern what's real and your heart to say what's possible. I'm Robert Phoenix. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow. And for this show, I'll see you next Sunday. And Friday, Stefan Verstappen will be here on the show. And I think we're going to try to get Ursilia Pompilio, who is a really cool person. She's got a website called Rogue Nurse. You should check her out. She's a client, but she's also kind of a superstar. So we're going to talk with her. We're going to get some download from the front lines with nursing, vaccines, all the other goodies. Okay. So come on in on Friday's show. It's going to be a good one. Until then, stay healthy, stay safe, and get your ass out into nature. I'm Robert Phoenix.